Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author of the Earthman Jack Space Saga, available over on Amazon.com. And in today's video, we are talking about some interesting movie news where Netflix has commissioned a sequel to one of its original movies. But is anyone really going to care? Well, Netflix certainly does because they are ramping up their content offerings in preparation for this upcoming streaming war. But will the offering be any good? We talk about McG and the proposed sequel to The Babysitter in this episode of Daily Geekery. So check out the video, and I'll see you next time. But we got one last movie news story to get to. And this is from Bloody Disgusting, the great news website that covers horror movies. And it says Netflix's The Babysitter gets sequel with McG returning to direct. From his extraordinarily weak Terminator Salvation to his most recent Netflix films, Rim of the World and The Babysitter McG continues to fail to impress me. The latter must have been a hit for the streaming service as the sequel is in the works. In fact, according to the latest issue of Production Weekly, McG is set to get back behind the camera for Babysitter 2 as early as October. The Babysitter followed a lonely 12-year-old boy who falls in love with his hot babysitter only to discover that she's part of a satanic cult that wants to kill him. Samara Weaving carried the entire film on her shoulders and returned for one final scare in a mid-credits sequence. Judah Lewis also survives the coming-of-age slasher. It's unclear if the sequel will follow the same story as the first, although Dan Lagana is listed as the new screenwriter. For those of you unaware, Lagana is the writer-producer of Netflix's must-see fake documentary series American Vandal, so that's a good thing. Casting is underway and shooting is expected to run through Thanksgiving. Watch for official news soon. So one of the interesting things about this is, for those of you who don't know, McG started off as a music video director, and he eventually branched out into feature films. He was the one who originally brought the Charlie's Angels movies out with Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu. And then he did like a string of TV productions. So he did like The OC and Lethal Weapon, a bunch of other stuff. So he's pretty successful by Hollywood standards. And recently he's been doing Netflix original movies. And his first Netflix original movie was this film, The Babysitter. And it was about this kid whose hot babysitter is part of a cult. And they're murdering people one night when she's babysitting for him, and they eventually plan to kill him, and he has to turn the tables on them and survive and stuff like that. And it's kind of a goofy, it's not really a scary movie, but it's kind of a goofy horror, like schlocky slasher type flick. Didn't have a lot of scares, but it was kind of funny. It was a little bit entertaining. His other film, Rim of the World, it's kind of like Goonies meets Independence Day. It's about a bunch of kids who are at camp during an alien invasion, and they have to travel from camp to Pasadena in order to deliver a key that contains information on it that can help the government shoot down the alien mothership. And it was actually a really entertaining film. I thought it was kind of like, it was just stupid, goofy fun, very much like the original Goonies. And you could tell that's what he was going for. So McGee's not the best director in the world, but he's like at least an entertaining one. And it sounds like this is going to be his follow-up to The Babysitter. And the one thing that holds some promise for this film is that the guy who did American Vandal is working on it. Now, Ruin, Steven, did either of you see American Vandal on Netflix?
No, I don't think I did.
Ruin, have you?
Well, no, absolutely not. I was just looking at this guy's filmography, and I don't know some of them. Like the one you suggest actually sounds quite decent, but he's done some god awful movies. I mean, that I Feel Pretty with Amy Schumer. Mm-hmm. Oh my word! So just looking at
Salvation.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I wasn't a fan of the Charlie's Angels, and I can't, there's a lot of, whether it's like rom-com stuff or tongue-in-cheek horror.
McGee's kind of the epitome of style over substance. He doesn't really take his movies all that seriously. It's more about what's the cool visual, what's the funny gag, that type of thing. but he's had a great deal of success. American Vandal, for those of you who haven't seen it, you definitely need to check it out. It's kind of like if you've ever heard of Making a Murderer, which is a true crime documentary series.
Yeah.
It takes that format and focuses on ridiculous crimes. Like the very first season, it's all about someone went to the school parking lot of this local high school and spray painted penises on all the teachers' cars. And so the big tagline is "Who drew the dicks?" And it's this like overly dramatic investigation into this crime of vandalism. And it's actually a legitimately good show in terms of like, it's a good mystery, but it's also funny, but it's also dramatic. And so it hits all those right notes. And then the sequel is someone doused the cafeteria lemonade with a laxative. And so it caused everyone at school during lunchtime to poop themselves. And the guy, the vandal, was called the Turd Burglar. And so like the whole question of that season was, who is the Turd Burglar? And it was even better than the first season, believe it or not. So the guy who I guess was responsible for writing those is going to be writing this new sequel to The Babysitter. And I'm holding out hope that he's good enough in terms of being a writer to give McG something good, because I felt like his take on Rim of the World was actually pretty decent. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff you said sounds interesting, and it does. With a lot of these, I'm from a writing world, so movies is a totally different ballgame, because you've got the director and the writer, and sometimes they're the one and the same, like Rian Johnson with The Last Jedi, and we know what happened there. Right. But often they're not, and when they're not, sometimes the director can look bad when actually it was bad writing, or vice versa. It was well written, but it was poorly directed. So he sounds like a guy who doesn't do a lot of his own writing. Is that fair, Matthew? He's more on the directing, and he started a music video. So, look, if the writing's good and he takes, he takes an interesting angle on it, then let's give it a go. The one thing I will say about modern horror, how hard is it to create a really good horror film these days? It's just impossible, because nothing scares people anymore. Real life is scary.
I don't know about that. I mean, Blumhouse has been doing really good in the horror genre. And my girlfriend is a big horror movie fan, so she drags me to all these things. The It movies from Stephen King, the Pet Sematary reboot, remake, that was really scary. I actually really enjoyed that one. So like there are good horror filmmakers out there still. McG is not one of them, and this isn't going to be a horror movie. This is going to be kind of like a goofy, kind of schlocky take on a slasher, probably. So we'll see. Maybe this guy will add some mystery elements to it, like he did with American Vandal, to make it a decent enough story, kind of carrying it through. But in this article, it is interesting, because the hot babysitter in the first one really did carry that movie. It's just like, she's very attractive, and I like watching her oscillate from like the sweet babysitter to the evil babysitter and stuff like that. So McG is really good at putting hot babes in his movies and showcasing them in interesting ways. Stephen, what's your take on this?
It sounds like you said, he's one of these directors who he's good with the visuals, but not a good writer, and I think that's usually a problem. Like we see with like Rian Johnson, his directing is okay, but he's a terrible writer. So if he's a good writer, then maybe there'll be hope.
Rian Johnson he is able to put a pretty picture on the screen. Like his visual style is pretty good, but he's a terrible storyteller. Awful. And he's the wrong fit for Star Wars, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It always comes back to Rian Johnson. You man babies can't let it go, can you?
So William McLaughlin says, it always seems like horror fans are more willing to subject themselves to bad movies because they love the genre so much. And there is a tendency for people to love a horror movie more if it's bad. like the bad horror movie, watching stuff like Best of the Worst type thing. That's a big thing because sometimes they can be so bad that they're enjoyable.
Yeah. You can watch. You guys used to watch like the Friday night movies and stuff, like those late night, like terrible horror movies, and you know they're just fun to watch. You know, for some reason, but it's always like with the horror movies.
Mladen Kulik says, I don't think The Babysitter needs a sequel. I don't think anybody thought The Babysitter needed a sequel, but Netflix, I guess, decided, hey, why not? The first one did okay. Netflix is also ramping up their content offerings to, kind of compete in the streaming wars. So
yeah, they're losing shows, right? I mean,
yeah, they're losing a lot of the network shows.
Right.
McGee also directed This Means War and Terminator Salvation. And Terminator Salvation is an underrated sequel. I don't think it's underrated at all. I thought it was a pretty terrible movie.
Yeah.
Did you guys like Terminator Salvation?
No.
I didn't go there, to be honest. I kind of, I love the first and the second one. And what was what was the Christian Bale one?
That's Salvation.
That's Salvation. Yeah, I think I watched about 15 minutes there, and I was like,
the premise of Salvation was really good, to see like an adult John Connor leading the resistance and seeing like the start of the fight against Skynet. Right. I thought it, like, the potential for that to be incredible would have been great, and if it had been good, the Terminator series could have been all about that future war, like seeing John Connor be the general leading the fight. Like, that would have been awesome. And it just totally squandered that premise. It was just boring and stupid.
Yeah, that's where I thought the whole series was headed. It's going to be like, okay, now we're like in real time in this alternate universe where Judgment Day happened and we're going to be following John Connor. But it's just like, I still don't know what that movie was about. Like, I didn't get what the quote unquote Terminator in that movie, what was he? Like, what was the point of it? It was just kind of weird,
It's like, we got to have a Terminator in this movie somewhere.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Hey, Matthew, I'm just checking out the actress from The Babysitter. I've just I had to Google her now that you bigged her up, and she's got a bit of the Margot Robbie going on, hasn't she?
She's very attractive.
Yeah, so
but she knows how to pick them.
Yeah, I might give that one a go. Just for
does Ruin do the casting couch? Is that how that works?
Well, me and Kathy, we are very tight. We holiday together. We bath together. Yes.
So William McLaughlin says, with a good writer, McGee could be serviceable. I agree. But you can say that with any director. If any director has a good writer, they can make a decent enough movie. You have to work really hard to screw up a bad script. Jesse says, I can't stand jump scares. I see them coming a mile away, and even when I don't, it's still not scary. I hate jump scares too. I just find them lazy and cheap. Like I don't know how else to scare you, so I'm just going to blast music really loud when this thing jumps out. It's like, that's not scary. That's just annoying.
No, it's such a cliche, It's somebody sneaking up behind you, oh, it's the cat. It's
yeah. That's a cat jump scare. That's the cheapest of them all.
Over and over again.
Jesse goes on to say, years ago, I watched Sorority House Massacre 2. It was with my buddy Charlie, and we laughed so much. I even said, dun, dun, dun. And I swear to God, I'm screaming it was thunder and lightning. A good horror movie can be fun. That's why, they make them, because they can be a lot of fun. Thank you for watching this video. For more movie, TV, and entertainment news and analysis, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and also hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time a new video is posted. And follow me on the socials. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, check out my books over on Amazon.com. You can go to Kadish Books, KADISHbooks.com, and go right to my Amazon profile and see the kind of things I offer there. Anyway, guys, this is Matthew Kadish. I'll catch you in the next video.